Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Positive Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Parmis Najmi, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to listen to more episodes like this one on self-improvement, mindset, and wellness, go ahead and hit that follow button to join the family. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to ask you guys for a quick and kind favor, and that is if you haven't yet left a review, I would absolutely appreciate if you could do so. It helps so much to build this podcast and help it grow so that we can increase the positive impact we make and just overall make it a bigger community. Also, if you are looking for daily motivation, follow me on Instagram at Positive Proof Podcast, where I post behind the scenes content and daily quotes that serve as sweet daily reminders. And if anyone is wondering how to leave episode requests, you can actually send me your thoughts via the DM me your thoughts link in the description or via Instagram DM as well. Today, we're going to be pulling out the magnifying glass and tilting it away from fashion trends towards the tiny everyday habits that can quietly dull an otherwise polished vibe. Quick disclaimer before we dive in: chic isn't a price tag or a dress code. It's an attitude. It is the calm confidence that says, listen, I know who I am, then lets the rest of the room exhale. That said, some visible choices do broadcast messages we don't realize we're sending. And these things, listen, I catch myself doing too. So this episode is not really a roast session. It is a mirror we can all share for a moment, then wipe clean and move on with grace. Now, if you just clicked on this episode and learning chic habits is not really an extreme passion of yours, you're probably wondering, why bother? And to that I say, because chic lives in the boring details. Boring fabrics that feel expensive because they fit right, boring posture that never has to shout for attention, boring consistency, a signature lipstick, a signature scent that frees your mind for bigger creative plays. And when you strip away the noisy extras, you can leave space for authenticity to actually breathe. Now, if you do any of the habits that I'll be talking about today, no judgment here. Seriously, these are all habits that I agree with, that even I partake in and need to work on. And just because I believe these are all habits that don't align with being chic or feminine, it does not mean that you need to agree as well. There is no right or wrong, really. There is only what makes you feel good enough to continue doing or to change. We all have habits that work for us, and nothing in this episode is a personal attack. Today's rundown is really meant for listeners who want to dial up a feminine, chic, and quietly classy vibe. So if that isn't your priority, feel free to hit pause and come back whenever it is. Zero hard feelings, zero offense intended. So here's the game plan. I will run you through 9 everyday habits. I know. What an odd number. I could have added another one, but I couldn't think of any. For each one, I'm going to offer 2-second tweaks so you can keep the vibe effortless, not effortful. And if you love an item I call out, keep it. We are curating. We're not canceling. So grab a coffee, go for a walk, chill out, whatever you like, and let's see which habits make your personal chic checklist and which ones you're ready to retire. Okay, starting off with point number 1, I want you to picture this. You've nailed the outfit, neutrals layered just right, jewelry is whisper thin, hair is slicked into that signature low bun, you are on a cafe patio catching golden hour light, and snap, crack, pop, out comes the gum. Suddenly, the entire scene slips from quiet luxury to middle school hallway, because nothing yanks the room out of a chic spell faster than that staccato jaw rhythm and minty soundtrack. Now, why does this sabotage the vibe? It's just chewing gum, right? No, there is a visual distraction. The constant open-close motion draws so much attention straight to your mouth that it competes with every sleek line you just curated elsewhere. Even if you are chewing with your mouth closed, there is still movement of the jaw that is visually distracting. There's also a soundtrack mismatch. Chic feels effortless, almost silent, but gums have pops and squeaks that are sonic exclamation points in a space that really should feel like a soft focus film. There's also the fact that there's a body language cue. When your jaw's in continuous motion, people read it as low-key anxiety or boredom, kind of like athletes burning off nerves or travelers killing time at a gate. So if you're going to be dropping that habit in a cafe chat or meeting, it's going to shout restless, pulling attention from your words and undercutting composed, confident energy, which is what we want to achieve. But wait, you're probably thinking, I love fresh breath. Same. I chew gum all the time, and I've been trying to remind myself that there are alternatives. And reminder that this isn't a moral indictment, it's an aesthetic audit. If gum keeps you from coffee breath before a meeting, keep a stash. The tweak is timing. Chew off scene, then ditch it before you enter a room where you want to project poise. Grace comes from intention, not rigid rules. So there are some elegant swaps. For example, you can choose mints over gum. They dissolve quietly, leaving no choreographed jaw action. And you can even look for sugar-free tablets in a slim metal tin. Bonus style points for when you pull it out. Parsley or apple slices also work. They're kind of old school, but they neutralize odor without any audible performance. And of course, there's hydration. Bad breath often stems from dryness, so a quick water sip is the chicest fix of all. Here's your final reminder. Chic isn't perfection, it's awareness. And I still catch myself unwrapping a gum square on deadline days, but the difference now is I ask, do I need the breath lift or am I stress chewing? Oftentimes, I'm really just stress chewing out of boredom or anxiety. And one deep breath usually answers that for me. So if I still want the peppermint boost, I'll take it. But then I'll spit it before I step into the room where my presence, not my bubble pop, should speak first. Moving on to point number 2, cussing. I am very guilty of this. If I stub my toe on the coffee table or get caught in Toronto traffic, an F-bomb will slip out before I even register it. So the cussing conversation absolutely applies to me. Still, I've noticed that when every story, joke, or observation is peppered with profanity, the overall vibe tilts from composed to chaotic. And Chic rarely thrives in chaos. Elegant energy feels measured, almost velvety. There's also the emotional residue. Habitual cussing can broadcast frustration you may not actually feel in the moment. You could be describing the most delicious plate of pasta, yet the constant cussing creates an undercurrent of irritation. That tension clashes with the calm poise you've built through well-fitting trousers and refined posture. Language is just another accessory, so let it complement the look rather than fight it. And listen, I'm not advocating for a soap-in-the-mouth purge of your vocabulary. A perfectly timed curse can land a punchline or underscore genuine passion, but the trick here is intention. So ask yourself, does this swear word add spice or is it just a filler? If it's the latter, swap it for a more vivid adjective, like bone-chilling cold feels richer than freaking cold, or let a moment of silence do the work. You'll be amazed how much power a short pause carries because listeners will lean in and your point lands crystal clear. Context helps too though. Like I give myself green zones where free range cussing is welcome, like gym sessions, venting to close friends, private voice notes. And then I have white glove zones like client calls, first dates, or recorded content where every word should feel much more curated. Remember, Chic isn't about moral purity, it's about intentionality. So keep the curse that truly amplifies your passion and release the 4 others that merely clutter the narrative. When profanity becomes a rare, deliberate seasoning instead of the entire stew, both your message and your aesthetic will taste infinitely more refined. Moving on to point number 3, I may or may not get a lot of hate for this one, but I want to talk footwear. And again, this is strictly opinion-based. This is my preference. You can totally disagree with me, but I want to specifically talk about the summertime showdown between chunky slides and slim flip-flops. I know slides have dominated TikTok and they're comfy, easy to hose off after the beach, and allegedly give cool girl off-duty energy. But from a chic meter perspective, their bulk can read more pool deck than polished. The wide strap cuts the line of the foot, it's visually shortening the leg and introducing a heavy, almost orthopedic silhouette that clashes with floaty linen pants or a crisp midi dress. In photos, all you see is that giant slab of foam marching toward the camera, hijacking an otherwise delicate outfit. Flip-flops, on the other hand, yes, the humble 2-strap thong get a bad rap because we associate them with $5 drugstore pairs that slap against the pavement, but swap that mental image for a minimal leather flip-flop in cream, tan, or glossy black, and suddenly the shoe becomes a whisper, not a shout. I find flip-flops so classy and they go with absolutely everything. They're so minimal and the slender straps expose more of the arch, elongating the foot and by extension, the entire leg line. You also get a subtle click as you walk, which feels more like resort chic than locker room shuffle. They're just so dainty, and even if you're not opting for leather flip-flops, a pair of high-quality Havaianas will do as well. While slides sit flat and heavy, a refined flip-flop lifts at the toe just enough to give movement. Think ballet slipper versus house slipper. And of course, comfort matters. I get it. If you're trekking 6 city blocks, slides might feel like walking on marshmallows, whereas thin-soled flip-flops can leave feet aching. But chic and comfy aren't mutually exclusive. You can invest in leather or vegan leather flip-flops with a cushioned footbed and a teeny stacked heel, half an inch is plenty, and the lift protects the arches, the material molds to your foot, and the look stays streamlined. Bonus, high-quality leather ages beautifully, adding so much more character rather than cracking like rubber. And I want to prove my point by having you guys do a quick styling test. I want you to put on your favorite trousers or slip dress, then alternate between chunky slides and slim flip-flops in the mirror. Notice how the slides draw eyes downwards and make the outfit feel casual, bordering on sloppy, while the flip-flops melt into the look, letting the fabric and jewelry take center stage. Once you do this, everything I'm saying will make sense. Chic is often about subtraction, removing bulk so elegance can breathe. So while there's a time and place for slides, like airport security lines maybe, if your goal is effortless polish, reach for the dainty flip-flop that lets your outfit and your posture stand a little taller. Now I have a poll down below if you're tuning in from Spotify, so I would love to know if you're team chunky slide or team minimal flip-flop. Especially since this one is a little bit controversial, I am really curious to see your guys' opinion. So scroll down and cast your vote for the chicest summer shoe of 2025. I'm seriously dying to see which side wins. Moving on to point number 4, not having a signature look. Consistency is the secret sauce of chic, yet it's the first thing we abandon when boredom creeps in. Think of every style icon you admire, whether it's Coco Chanel in her pearls, Audrey Hepburn in her bateau necklines, or Rihanna in her fearless red lip phase. Each cultivated a recognizable signature that let the world know exactly who was walking into the room long before the flashbulbs popped. When you're constantly chasing reinvention, like bleaching your hair in March, highlights by June, chopping bangs on a late night whim, you dilute that visual shorthand. Instead of reading as playful, the perpetual switch often signals restlessness, even sometimes insecurity. Like, who am I this week? Chic thrives on the opposite, a steady through line that whispers quiet confidence. And this doesn't mean fossilizing your look or stifling creativity. It's about anchoring yourself with a few unmistakable markers so every evolution feels like a chapter in the same story, not an entirely new book. If hair color is your playground, you can pick a tonal family, say warm brunettes, and dance within those shades rather than skittering from espresso to blonde overnight every now and then. Or lock in a cut that frames your features beautifully and use accessories, not scissors, for the mood swings. Even subtle signatures like always parting your hair down the center or wearing dainty gold hoops or favoring monochrome palettes create a cohesive imprint that people come to associate with your name. Now, why does this matter? Well, first, a signature streamlines decision fatigue. When the foundation of your look is predictable, you free creative brain space for bolder moves, maybe an unexpected shoe color or a statement ring, without spiraling into identity chaos. Second, repetition breeds credibility. When followers, clients, or friends can instantly identify your aesthetic, your personal brand becomes sticky. You shift from the girl who changes her hair a lot to the one with a sleek bob and effortless neutrals. And finally, a consistent baseline makes occasional departures more impactful. If you've kept midnight brown hair for years, debuting a single caramel balayage feels way more intentional and newsworthy rather than impulsive. So here's what I want you to do. Choose 2 or 3 non-negotiables, perhaps your go-to nail shape, a signature fragrance, and one color palette you return to season after season, and let everything else orbit those anchors. When you resist the urge to overhaul your appearance every quarter, you cultivate a visual legacy that looks less try-hard and more timelessly undeniably chic. 2 things that I like to keep very consistent is 1, my hair color. I actually have virgin hair and I've never dyed my hair before, which is quite surprising to some people. And the other thing is my scent. I do not understand people who have perfume collections. I mean, I get that you like variety, but for me, I like one scent. I like a signature scent. I like knowing that when I walk into a room, People know that it's me just based on the aroma of my perfume. Those are my non-negotiables. So I want you to choose yours and see how much better you feel. Moving on to point number 5, vaping. Now, confession time, I have owned one of those pastel colored vapes just for travel days and found myself puffing clouds while at a party in the past. So this call out does land on my own shoulders as well. By no means am I a vapor or a smoker. I actually hate the smell of it so much. Just something that I have done in the past. And still, if we're grading habits on the elegance scale, vaping is a big miss for me for 3 big reasons. First, we have the visual drama. A cloud of scented vapor feels more nightclub fog machine than quiet luxury. You could be wearing the most impeccable, tailored blazer, but the second a thick blueberry cheesecake cloud rolls past your face, the vibe immediately shifts from polished to theatrical. Chic loves negative space. Clean air around you, unbroken sightlines, nothing competing with your silhouette. Second, there's object aesthetics. Traditional cigarettes already look dated, but vapes add neon lights, rainbow plastic, and USB cables dangling from luxury handbags, none of which say timeless. Those flashing LEDs might be fun at a rave, yet they clash with muted linens, minimalist jewelry, and the soft focus vibe we work so hard to curate on our feeds. Like, imagine Audrey Hepburn pulling a charging cable out of her clutch. Exactly. And I'm not trying to say traditional cigarettes are okay. They're both bad, but vaping especially goes against the quiet luxury and the chic aesthetic that we all try to achieve. The third reason is subtext. Continuous puffing reads as anxious fidgeting, kind of like the gum chewing that we talked about earlier. You're lifting, inhaling, exhaling every few minutes, mouth always occupied, and it telegraphs the same restless energy as biting your nails or tapping a pen. Tiny motions that chip away at effortless composure. Even when you're perfectly calm, the gesture suggests that you're chasing a fix, not luxuriating in the moment. So what's the elegant exit ramp? If you truly enjoy the ritual, time box it. Step outside after dinner, savor 2 discrete pulls like you'd savor a square of dark chocolate, then put it away in your purse. Treat it as a deliberate indulgence, not a background habit. Now, if you want to quit altogether, swap the oral fixation for something neutral, like a stainless steel water bottle to sip on or a slim tin of dissolvable mints. Silent, scentless, and chic. Now, design matters too. If you must carry a vape, pick a matte black or brushed metal model free of rainbow skins and cartoon stickers and store it in a mini case rather than just loose in your palm. Out of sight, out of mind, and out of your outfit photos. Grace reminder, the goal isn't sainthood here. It's intentionality. Every cloud you don't blow lets your perfume linger, your words land, and your presence speak louder than vapor ever could. Vaping doesn't make you a bad person or unattractive or unlikable by any means. It's the habit that can convey messages you may not want if you're chasing chic femininity. So it's just something to think about. Now, the next point is something I immediately changed as soon as I learned about it back in 2020 COVID on TikTok by a wine expert. And it is clutching a wine glass by its bowl. It feels natural. I get it. Almost cozy to wrap your fingers around the curved glass. But the moment you do, 2 things happen that nudge the look from effortless sophisticate to brunch afterthought. The first is the visual polish takes a hit. Fingerprints smear the glass and condensation blooms where your hand warms the wine. And in photos or across a dim restaurant table, the smudged bowl steals the sparkle that makes good stemware feel special. Suddenly, your pristine tablescape looks like an aftermath of a toddler art project. The second thing is function follows form. Red or white wine is designed to shine at a precise temperature. Your 98-degree fingers fast-track it into the meh zone, dulling aroma and flattening the flavor. Again, this is all stuff that I learned from a wine expert on TikTok. So you're hearing it now from me, and I'm teaching you now, if you didn't know. And listen, if you couldn't care less about tasting notes, Chic is about respect for yourself, for the moment, and yes, even for what's in the glass. Warming it says, this is just liquid, who cares? But holding the stem says, this pour matters, and I'm present enough to notice.
Let's take a quick break. Hey, pod friends. Jen from the Halfway to Dead podcast here. Quick break for some real talk. Midlife is freaking hard, am I right? Are you ready to ditch the BS, flip the script, and finish this life strong? Of course you are. Join me to listen to real conversations that don't shy away from the hard, messy stuff. And yeah, we get a little woo-woo along the way. Let's hit the road on this midlife spiritual journey together. Halfway to Dead, served up with humor and heart. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
There's also a body language upgrade when you use the stem. Your wrist stays relaxed, your elbow angles gracefully, and you swirl without sloshing. Compare that to fist hugging the bowl, shoulders hunched, fingers splayed, glass tilted like a coffee mug. One reads gala, the other reads kitchen counter. Now, here's a micro fix. I want you to pin your thumb and index finger lightly around the lower half of the stem, letting the other fingers rest on the base. If the glass feels precarious, choose stemware with a slightly thicker stem or a tulip shape that narrows near the base. Easier grip, same elegance. For outdoor parties or standing receptions, a small stemless tumbler is fine because, listen, expectations shift. So just remember it's the exception, not the everyday habit. Now, if you want to train yourself to get into the habit, pour yourself sparkling water in a wine glass at home and practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice holding only the stem while you scroll or just cook dinner. Because repetition turns the stance automatic, so when you're out, your hand just naturally finds its chic perch. And I want you to know, we're not policing manners for snob points. We are curating tiny cues that signal care. When your glass stays clear, the wine stays crisp, and your posture stays poised, the whole scene tells a cohesive story of quiet confidence. No words or stem smudges required. Moving on to point number 7. I absolutely know we've all done this. You've savored an iced latte down to the sediment and slurp. Your straw tunnels through crushed ice, hunting one final millimeter of caffeine. I do it too, okay? Especially when the drink costs more than my first phone bill, yet that single elongated slurp slices through the ambiance like a squeaky door in a quiet gallery, jolting everyone from their calm. Audibly sucking the last drops of your drink sabotages Chic on 2 fronts. First is sound. Chic is almost cinematic. Soft clinks of cutlery, low conversation, or the rustle of linen. A straw vacuum, or worse, kind of inserts humor into that delicate score. It's the oral equivalent of wearing neon sneakers with a silk slip. Memorable for all the wrong reasons. The second is subtext. The frantic hunt for every molecule of liquid broadcasts scarcity and impatience. Like, I must squeeze out the very end because I'm not going to get any more. But true elegance whispers abundance. Even if the drink is divine and overpriced, I get it, these days lattes are very overpriced, stopping a breath short of empty conveys effortless self-control and an I'm already satisfied aura that's far more magnetic than desperation for remains. Now, easy refinements do exist. You can order a bigger size if you know you're a drain the cup type. Or with iced drinks, you can swirl the cup gently instead of plunging the straw. Liquid does redistribute, and any remaining sip arrives without vacuum noise. Now, if you prefer hot beverages, tip, don't tilt. Angle the mug slightly while keeping your lips relaxed at the rim because gravity guides the liquid without whirlpool theatrics. Now, for straw devotees, upgrade to a metal or silicone straw with a broader bore because wider diameter equals less suction needed, therefore fewer squeaks. At home, you can practice silent finishes like fill a glass with water and ice, sip until near empty, then pause. Accept the unfinished inch and walk away. Repetition rewires that urge. Remember, Chic isn't about wastefulness, it's about presence. When you allow the last teaspoon to remain, you send a tiny signal that pleasure doesn't reside in scraping the barrel, but in savoring the moment. Grace lies in knowing you could take the final slurp, but choosing stillness and letting the atmosphere, not the straw, carry the conversation home. Moving on to point number 8, chunky jewelry or watches. The problem with chunky jewelry isn't that it's wrong, it's that its sheer mass hijacks the subtle lines that make an ensemble feel intentional and fluid. Visual balance is the first casualty. Chic relies on negative space, skin between bracelet and sleeve, collarbone between chain and neckline, and a hefty watch or a bib-style necklace plugs those air gaps, weighting the eye downward and flattening your silhouette. In daylight, polished metal flashes for attention, and under evening light, it throws harsh reflections that compete with your features. Instead of framing the face, statement pieces often upstage it. Then there's movement and sound. Oversized links clack and cuffs clatter against laptops and watch clasps scrape glassware. Every clang reminds the room that you're present. Hardly the quiet confidence that we're curating here. And there's also the fact that bulky it pieces age really fast, turning yesterday's must-have into today's relic. Being chic, on the other hand, favors longevity. So jewelry should enhance rather than timestamp you. Think of Sophia Richie's whisper-thin tennis necklace that doesn't scream for attention, yet it looks current decade after decade. See, elegant pivots start with proportion. If you adore a chunky cuff, make it the solo star. Skip the watch, keep rings slim, and push sleeves back to restore breathing room. For daily wear, trade the mega dial for a slender strap. The narrow case nestles under shirt cuffs without shouting. Swap thick rope chains for a pair of dainty layered necklaces and mixed metals for dimension without bulk. And a helpful rule is that your jewelry stack width should not exceed the slimmest part of the limb it adorns. Your wrist bones are delicate, so let jewelry mirror that grace. When you're layering, aim for contrast and texture, not size. Pair a silk cord bracelet with a pencil-thin bangle instead of piling 3 clunky bangles together and calling that a stack. Chic isn't allergic to statement pieces, it just asks you to curate with restraint. By letting one thoughtful accent shine and editing out the extras, you reclaim negative space. You restore quiet movement and allow your presence, not your hardware, to hold the spotlight. Okay, entering our last point, which is low quality fabrics or dupes. And quick disclaimer before we dive in, I have zero judgment toward dupes or budget pieces, because if grabbing a look for less lets you enjoy a trend without denting your wallet, celebrate that win. I've happily worn my share of budget pieces and they serve their season just fine. But on my personal unchic checklist are fabrics that feel flimsy, plasticky, or pill after 3 washes. These quietly sabotage the effortless vibe I'm chasing. Low-quality textiles dull an outfit in ways we don't always notice at first glance. Synthetic satins and low-grade polyester reflect light in a flat, almost plastic sheen that photographs costumey. And I'm sure you've noticed this if you've paid attention. It's what makes a well-cut blazer look like a party store dress-up. For example, thin poly knits cling in awkward places or ride up with static or hang stiffly instead of gliding with the body. So the silhouette you planned in the mirror turns into a wrinkle map by lunchtime. And because quiet luxury whispers durability, a sweater that pills at the elbows after 1 wash, that broadcasts disposability, the opposite of timeless. Spotting trouble fabrics takes a little bit of practice. In store, I do a scrunch test, for example. Balling a corner of a clothing piece in my fist for 5 seconds pretty much tells me everything I need to know. If it rebounds crisp, great. But if it keeps those accordion creases, it usually hangs the same way on my body. I also scan fiber mixes quickly, so anything with natural fibers like cotton, linen, wool, silk, if those make up at least half the blend, it tends to age better. A little elastane for stretch is fine, but an 80% acrylic winter knit, that's going to be less appealing. Weight is another giveaway too. A trench coat so feather light it flaps like a rain poncho will look chic on a hanger, but very sad once a breeze hits, because quality clothing carries a certain heft from proper linings and interfacing. And listen, elevating fabrics doesn't have to break the budget. I prioritize spending on high-touch basics. A perfect white tee, black trousers, a camel coat, because those pieces anchor every outfit and sit directly on my skin. Ultimately, if a dupe sparks joy and fits your lifestyle, keep it. But when I'm after that effortlessly chic, timeless, nothing to prove elegance, I find that well-chosen fabrics, whether new, vintage, or borrowed, offer a drape softness and quiet confidence that no plastic satin can imitate. So that brings us to the end, and just like that, we have worked our way from peppermint gum to polyester that shines like a disco ball. 9 tiny habits that can quietly chip away at the calm, purposeful elegance we're aiming for. Remember, none of these quirks are moral failings. I still slip up here and there. The point is, though, that chic is an attitude first and aesthetic second. And the magic happens when we choose our details with intention instead of autopilot. So here's my invitation. Pick one habit that poked you most, maybe the vape cloud, the chunky jewelry stack, or the final latte slurp, and experiment with its quieter alternative for the next 7 days. Notice how that single shift changes the way your outfit flows and how your posture feels, or just how people respond. And then let me know. Screenshot this episode, tag at Parmis Najmi and at Positive Proof Podcast, and share the habit you're retiring or proudly keeping. And if a friend immediately came to mind during today's rundown, we all know a chronic straw slurper, send them this episode, because chic is more fun when we level up together. And to everyone who made it this far, I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to chat with you again in next week's episode. Lots of love, Parmis.